They vanished from the spotlight just enough to make people nervous. Matty and Kelly from Skote Outdoors were once everywhere, hauling supplies by boat, battling brutal weather, and building an off-grid life most people couldn't survive for a week. Then the uploads shifted, the tone changed, and suddenly, rumors started flying. Some claimed something went terribly wrong. Others said the dream quietly fell apart. But almost none of those stories tell the full truth. Because what actually happened to Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke is far more complicated and way more interesting than the internet wants you to believe. It didn't start with fame or even with a plan to go viral. Long before hundreds of thousands of viewers discovered their channel, Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke made a decision most people would never seriously consider. They walked away from comfort and chose isolation instead. Their destination, a rugged, weather-beaten island off the coast of Newfoundland, where abandoned homes and unforgiving conditions quickly separate dreamers from the truly determined. At first glance, it almost sounded romantic. No traffic, no noise, just endless ocean views and total freedom. But the reality hit fast. Every single supply had to arrive by boat. If something broke, there was no calling a repair service. Even basic tasks like heating the house or keeping food fresh demanded constant effort. One wrong decision out there isn't just inconvenient. It can spiral into a serious situation. What made their journey stand out wasn't just the off-grid setting. It was how raw and unfiltered it felt. Viewers weren't watching a polished survival show. They were witnessing two people figure things out in real time, mistakes and all. That authenticity pulled audiences in almost overnight. But while their new life looked fearless on camera, very few people realized just how much pressure was quietly building behind the scenes. And that pressure would soon test them in ways they never expected. What truly pulled viewers into Skote Outdoors wasn't just the isolation, it was the relentless workload that came with it. From sunrise to well past sunset, Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke were in constant motion, tackling jobs that would overwhelm even experienced homesteaders. There were no shortcuts on that island, only problems waiting to be solved. Imagine needing lumber, not a quick hardware store run, but a careful boat trip across unpredictable waters. Groceries weren't simple either. One forgotten item could turn into a week-long setback. Even something as routine as preparing for winter became a race against time, because once the harsh weather rolled in near Newfoundland, getting stranded was a very real possibility. And yet, they kept pushing forward. Cameras captured frozen fingers, equipment failures, and days where exhaustion was written all over their faces. Still, they rarely complained. That quiet resilience became their signature, making viewers feel like they weren't just watching, they were part of the journey. But living under that kind of non-stop pressure can change people. Over time, sharp-eyed fans began noticing small shifts. Moments that felt different, almost heavier than before. At first, it was easy to dismiss, until those subtle changes became impossible to ignore. As the channel kept growing, the pressure didn't just stay on the island, it followed them online. Skote Outdoors wasn't a small passion project anymore. Every upload pulled in hundreds of thousands of eyes, and with that came expectations. Viewers weren't just watching for progress, they were invested in outcomes. If a build slowed down, people noticed. If an episode felt different, the comments filled up fast. For Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke, that kind of attention was a double-edged sword. On one hand, the support was massive. On the other, living off-grid while documenting every win and mistake meant there was no real escape. Every setback became public. Every delay sparked theories. And every quiet moment felt louder than it should have. Fans began dissecting details. Body language, tone of voice, even editing choices. Some claimed the stress of island life near Newfoundland was finally catching up to them. Others suggested burnout, or that the dream wasn't as sustainable as it looked. None of it was officially confirmed, but speculation spread fast, and the more people talked, the harder it became to tell where reality ended. And assumptions began. Then came the shift that changed everything, not in a dramatic clickbait way, but in a way that quietly reshaped their entire reality. Life on the island was no longer just about survival and building, it was about responsibility. When Kelly Clarke became pregnant, the stakes instantly skyrocketed and viewers could feel it through the screen. Suddenly, Risks that once felt manageable didn't look the same anymore. Weather delays weren't just inconvenient, they were dangerous. Long, exhausting workdays carried heavier consequences, and the isolation that once symbolized freedom now raised serious questions about safety, access to care, and long-term sustainability. Living off-grid near Newfoundland is tough on its own. Doing it while preparing for a newborn is an entirely different level of pressure. Fans noticed the tone shift almost immediately. Projects slowed, conversations felt more cautious. The carefree edge that defined earlier videos was replaced by something more grounded, and more tense. Some viewers celebrated the change. Others felt uneasy, sensing that the dream they fell in love with was being quietly rewritten. But behind the scenes, this wasn't about content strategy or audience reaction. It was about adapting to a reality that no amount of preparation fully prepares you for, and that adaptation would soon force decisions no one saw coming. As those changes became more visible, the internet did what it always does. It filled in the gaps with its own version of events. Comment sections, forums, and reaction videos started pushing a darker narrative about Skote Outdoors. Some claimed the isolation had gone too far. Others suggested there was serious trouble behind the scenes that viewers weren't being told about. And once those ideas took hold, they spread fast. Every missed upload was treated like a warning sign. Every quieter moment on camera sparked new theories. A slower build timeline? Something's wrong. A more serious tone? They're struggling. None of it came with proof, but speculation doesn't need evidence to grow. It just needs silence. What made things worse was how believable the rumors sounded on the surface. Living remotely near Newfoundland is genuinely risky. Add harsh weather, physical exhaustion, and a growing family, and it's easy for outsiders to assume the worst. Some even claimed there had been a major incident that forced a sudden change in plans, though no verified source ever confirmed that. Still, once an audience starts asking questions, it's almost impossible to stop the momentum. The story online began drifting further away from reality, shaped more by fear and curiosity than facts, and while viewers debated what might have happened, the real situation was unfolding very differently. After weeks of swirling theories, many viewers expected a dramatic reveal, some shocking event that would explain everything. But the truth about Skote Outdoors is far less sensational and far more real. There was no confirmed catastrophe, no hidden scandal, and no sudden collapse of the life Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke worked so hard to build. Instead, what people were witnessing was something much more common: evolution. Priorities change when you're raising a child in a remote environment. Risk gets evaluated differently. Even the way you work shifts when every decision affects more than just the two of you. The fearless pace that once defined their early videos naturally gave way to a more calculated approach. And despite the rumors, they never disappeared. They continued sharing updates, documenting projects, and showing the realities of building a sustainable life near Newfoundland. It may not have been as rapid or dramatic as before, but it was honest, and arguably more reflective of what long-term off-grid living actually looks like. In many ways, the biggest twist is that nothing went wrong at all. The dream didn't fall apart, it matured. But their journey also reveals something most viewers overlook. Survival isn't the hardest part of this lifestyle. Staying committed to it is. After weeks of swirling theories, many viewers expected a dramatic reveal, some shocking event that would explain everything. But the truth about Skote Outdoors is far less sensational and far more real. There was no confirmed catastrophe, no hidden scandal, and no sudden collapse of the life Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke worked so hard to build. Instead, what people were witnessing was something much more common: evolution. Priorities change when you're raising a child in a remote environment. Risk gets evaluated differently. Even the way you work shifts when every decision affects more than just the two of you. The fearless pace that once defined their early videos naturally gave way to a more calculated approach. And despite the rumors, they never disappeared. They continued sharing updates, documenting projects, and showing the realities of building a sustainable life near Newfoundland. It may not have been as rapid or dramatic as before, but it was honest, and arguably more reflective of what long-term off-grid living actually looks like. In many ways, the biggest twist is that nothing went wrong at all. The dream didn't fall apart, it matured. But their journey also reveals something most viewers overlook. Survival isn't the hardest part of this lifestyle. Staying committed to it is. What Matty and Kelly's story really exposes isn't just the reality of off-grid living. It's how quickly audiences project their own expectations onto creators. Skote Outdoors began as a raw look at survival and self-reliance, but over time, it became something else in viewers' minds. Not a journey, but a promise. Constant progress, constant grit, constant proof that the dream never cracks. And when that illusion shifted even slightly, disappointment crept in. Some viewers missed the chaos and danger. Others wanted bigger builds, faster results, higher stakes, but real life doesn't scale on an upload schedule, especially not when you're raising a family and maintaining a homestead in a remote part of Newfoundland. For Matty Clarke and Kelly Clarke, the challenge wasn't just physical anymore, it was emotional. Balancing privacy with transparency, knowing what to share and what to protect. Understanding that slowing down doesn't mean giving up, even if the internet sees it that way. In the end, their story isn't about something going wrong. It's about something becoming real, less performative, more human. And maybe that's the part that makes people the most uncomfortable, because it reminds us that no dream stays cinematic forever.